Hello and welcome back to my channel for another video. In this video tutorial, what we'll be looking at is this problem right here. So what we'll be looking at in this video is a do-while loop and a switch statement. So the problem goes, write a do-while loop that counts from 10 to 0. So in other words, it's in reverse, and display each value. So the next question is write a program that input an integer between 1 and 5 and use a switch statement to display the numbers corresponding letter in the alphabet A, B, C, D, or E. So let's get into the code, and I'll just leave the question right here so that you can see what we're doing. So first of all, we need to include our libraries. So for this tutorial, we only need one library. Okay, so but we also need the standard library, obviously. STE and the main function, and return 0. Okay, so first of all, what we need to do is create a variable. So we'll declare a variable called I, just for short, and this variable will be equal to 10. So now we'll start the do part of the do while loop, and we'll have do. So what we'll want to do is we would like to display the values from 10 to 0. So what we'll do is we'll see out I, which is 10, and we'll minus minus. So that means that we'll minus 1 from it, from the 10 that's there, that's hold in I, and we'll give it some space for when it's run. So for the condition, we'll have while. Now we'll have while I, which is 10, is greater than 0, then that's what we'll have there. This will run the cout I minus minus. But the I minus minus is saying I equal I minus I 1. So let's run this to see the printing out of the numbers. Alright, so as you can see, you have 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So as you can see, we have the values being printed from, well, it should, that counts from 10 to 0. Well, it should actually be 0, so therefore this should say less than or equal to 0. No, less than 0. So now as you can see, you have 10, 9, 8 to 0, because it says the loop that counts from 10 to 0 and display each value. Alright, so let's move on to the next question, which will be the switch statement. So I think we could run it in this same here. So let's just have a cout to just give some space. New line. So first of all, we'll need another variable. Let's call it the integer, because it asks to enter an integer. So we'll have an integer variable, and we won't set it to anything as yet. So now we'll give the user a prompt to say, okay, enter an integer. Simple as that. Enter an integer. And we won't end the line because we want the user to see in the value from the end of that statement. So we'll see in whatever the user entered into integer now. So integer will now be assigned to anything that the user would have entered. Alright, so now we'll create the switch statement. So we'll say switch, we'll call the keyword switch, and we'll pass the integer value that the user would have entered to the switch statement, and we'll now have our cases. So our first case would be 1. So if 1, we'll see out. So if the user enters 1, we'll see out A and line, and of course we'll break out of the loop if the user would have entered that value. So let's just copy and paste about 4 more of these, and then we'll do the corrections afterwards. I think that's 4. Alright, so let's give this some space here. Alright, so now we'll just change the values that are here for, so this would be 2 now, and this would be B. This would be B, and this now would be 3, and here should be C. This value, this case should be 4, and this should be D, and our final case, which is 5, and we have E here. What we could do, we could have a default statement, but it's not necessarily needed, but we could have just for proper programming or something like that, just to have a default that says if the person did not enter any one of these cases, and he or she would have entered something different, then we could print something to the screen saying that the user did not enter an acceptable value or something like that. So let's run this, and if there's no error, which it should not be, we should see what will happen. Alright, so it says enter an integer. So let's enter 1. So as you can see, we have the letter B, we'll have the letter A, which is printed out on the screen. So let's try to run this once more, and we'll type in 5 this time. So let's have 5, and as you can see, we have E onto the screen. So I just want to say thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or any comments, please comment it. Thank you.